welcome guys to another episode of this collaboration between Women's Football India and the Fanspire. In our first episode, if you checked that out, and we hope you did, we went ahead and discussed everything that's happening in our country for women's football. And it's important that we know and share all the information that we can about it. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing on the second episode here today. I'm Priyanka, and I'm also here with Mithila and Jenisha. So,
Hey guys.
hi guys. So glad you all are part of this. So yeah, you all can go ahead and give us a quick introduction to yourself.
Jenny, you can go first.
Okay, so I'm Jenisha. I'm basically an HR by profession and a very big football fan. I support Chennai FC here in ISL, and I support all the Tamil Nadu teams, as in the men's team, the women's state team, and in IWL I've been supporting CBSC. So even during this discussion, you might hear me talking a lot about actually talking more about Tamil Nadu league and the Tamil Nadu players. And I've been a part of Women's Footie India for quite some time now, and it's been a good journey so far.
Hey guys, so I'm Mithila and I've been on a bunch of lives with Priyanka. So I am a footballer and I'm also a passionate fan about the sport in itself. I really look forward to being a part of this industry eventually, but right now, I do play for a club called Parikrama FC in Karnataka state. I'm initially from Chennai, but I work based out of Bangalore now. So yeah, I'm excited for the discussion today, and I'm a huge shout out to Fanspire and Women's Footy India, a few platforms where women's football is highlighted in the country. So yeah.
Yeah, of course. And do follow especially Women's Footy India, Football India on Twitter as well. They keep giving regular updates on what's happening. So do give both pages a follow. And yeah, to show your support on social media as well. So now let's get straight on into the most recent thing that's happened with Indian women's football in the country, and that is obviously the couple of matches played by our girls. They have done pretty well, I should say, and let's get the results on screen and just quickly talk about it. So yes, as you can see, we had 2 international friendlies played very recently. Looking good for India, both wins over here. So how are you guys feeling about it?
Pretty good actually. I think this was we're playing friendlies after quite some time now. There was the second wave of the pandemic, and there was another lockdown. So there's a lot that the players overall would have had to go through. So for them to come back and train with the national team, have a camp now with the new coach Thomas Dennehy, and pretty much new coaching staff, I would say, like with the assistant coach Priya PB and all of that. So I think the most standout thing in this is their win against Chinese Taipei, a team that's I think 10 places above them. So yeah, I think great results, really good things to take from them.
So the last game against Chinese Taipei, that is like the biggest win in recent times. In fact, I would say that's the biggest win for Indian football this year across both the men's and the women's games. So that I think is a very big confidence booster for the team. And even the other 3 games, if you see, those were against lower ranked teams, and the team was expected to win those games. And we won the 2 other games and we lost one. But even the ones that we lost, we came close as per the updates, of course. But otherwise, overall, the team, had met the expectations, and the results were more or less what we had expected. And it's good to see the team performing well after such long gap in between, because the last time they had a camp was from December to Jan or so, and then there was a longer. They had a few friendlies at that time. I think the last friendly they played was in March or April, I believe, and then there was this long gap. and again now they're back in the camp together, but with a new coaching staff, and they're doing well, which is good to see. Let's just hope the next game also equally good.
Yeah. The previous games that you were talking about, we just have couple of creatives. We Surprising thing is we were trying to find the scores, like in a creative format on multiple pages, just to put it up here and have you guys take a look at it. But unfortunately, it was so difficult to find some, which is surprising considering that our girls have been playing and they've been performing, and there's no kind of much social media buzz created around it.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Yes.
sure. I think, yeah, go on, go on.
Yeah, go
We'll
ahead.
come to that. We'll come to that
Yeah, we'll come to
later.
that. We'll come to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so we were just talking about Jenny Shah. You just told us, there's a lot to look forward to, and let's talk about them. Sweden. How is that? How you're looking forward to that?
Two very big games actually. They're not going to be easy for the girls. We're playing Hamabi on 20th, and what's the other team? Deer Garden on 23rd. Yeah, so two big teams. Hamabi is like 5th in their league, and Deer Garden are like in the 9th position out of 12 teams. But if we will be facing their main team, that is a very big thing, because these are all very tough teams. And it will be a very good experience for the girls, irrespective of how the result goes. The experience that they will be gaining there will be huge, because they are all very top class players. They're very tough teams, very challenging. And if you see, even recently there were I saw a tweet where the Hamabi players were celebrating after the full-time whistle, and the crowd was amazing. So if it is kind of the same atmosphere that our players will also be there, it will be a double advantage for them, or a double. I don't know how to put it, but it will be better in that front as well, because they've not played in front of fans. I mean, our women's team hardly gets to play in front of fans. That's a totally different thing. But now after the pandemic and all, it will be good to play in front of fans. Although those will be the opposition fans, but still the atmosphere and everything. That is something that will be a completely new experience for the team. So that is something we are eagerly looking forward to, and hope there is live streaming for that at least.
Yes, of course. I do, hope that, as you said, it's exposure, and a lot of fans have been asking for this for a long time. They're like, okay, the girls went to camp. What's happening next? Let's get some news about matches, and yeah, finally we've got that. So that's another positive to take from that. Mithila, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is the fact that they'll be playing in Sweden. We're talking about a team that won the Olympic silver, right? So the kind of exposure that they'll be getting playing in an environment which produced that kind of top class players is itself going to be so amazing. Because another angle that I see it in is I really hope that our girls sort of get scouted even over there, at least to some kind of a Swedish team. I mean, it's obviously far fetched, but I think that the more exposure anyone gets, especially in places like Europe, you never know who's looking for a player who maybe has the same kind of caliber that the girls from our team have to offer. And if that works out, then I think that'll be absolutely huge for Indian football as a whole. So, yeah, so I mean, with the fact that we're playing Hamabi and the huge social media video that went viral of their fans, cheering and chanting, and the whole celebration that went on, that's something that would be a huge experience, and to get to play in that kind of an atmosphere is definitely a huge step up. So I think the advantage of having a Swedish coach is sort of materializing. We're able to see the good results from it, so hopefully they get good exposure playing with teams from the top tier of Swedish football.
Yeah. That's a really good point you made, about them getting to play in another environment and probably some European clubs. Talking about clubs and foreign players, we actually have Gokulam Kerala FC who made two big announcements that we are getting some really good players into Gokulam Kerala FC. One is the one you can see on our screens, and we also have another foreign signing.
Yep.
I think this is great, and this is really great to see this. And the players are also going to get to play with another international player who's probably going to bring in a lot of experience and the way they do things there, which is obviously great learning for our girls here. So that's
Yeah.
again a great move here.
Yep. Definitely. Yeah, I think also if you think about it now, looking at the signings that they've made both attacking signings, a striker and a midfielder. And with the current squad that they have. I mean, I think Sabitra Bandari is going through her rehab, so I'm not really sure of how her return to the team would be. But I see Gokulam as an extremely strong attacking side. The kind of investment that they made is completely on the attacking side of things. So I think it's always. I mean, I had a really exciting time watching them play in the IWL in Bangalore. So I think only good things to come for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's just move on to what we want to discuss next is the IWL qualifiers. Obviously, we knew that before the second lockdown that came into place, there were IWL qualifiers that were held in the states. But now, that's all gone for a toss. People are not sure, players are not sure as to what's exactly happening. So we all want to shed some light on that and what kind of confirmed news we have got till now.
Oh, okay, okay, fine. So, unlike the last IWL, this time they have a very detailed rule book, which I still think is a good thing because if you see in the last IWL, everything was completely chaotic. There were many state leagues that happened, but still, even the states that fulfilled all the criteria, they had to again go through the qualifiers and did not get to be a part of the finals directly. So there was a lot of confusion. There was a lot of chaos around everything that was going on. The state league FAs were not happy about what was going, and they were also not getting proper responses from AIFF. But this time, the rule book details every criteria, very well, and that's a good thing to see. And some of the criteria are actually very good. For example, the minimum number of days for the league to happen is 45 days. Unlike last time where there was no specific period mentioned. In fact, even the Tamil Nadu Women's League was wrapped up in just 10 days. But now it has to happen for 45 days. And the minimum number of teams required for every state FA is 6 teams, and each team has to play a minimum of 10 games. So this kind of gives the local girls in every state, more time, and also a good a good way to be back in the game after the long break in between because of the pandemic, and there's not been any footballing activity in between. There were a couple of tournaments here and there, and all were just one day tournaments, 2 day tournaments. But nothing bigger than that. So a 45-day league is a really good thing to look forward to, and that is something I'm sure everyone is looking forward to it, and I really hope that happens. And the state affairs really put in the effort to get that done because there are a lot of criteria that might seem a little too much for some of the state affairs, but looking at it overall, they seem good. Because there was even one criteria that said that state affairs should update their websites and their social media handles, especially on match days, the scores and everything, all the details should be updated. So that was one point that was interesting because we see even AIFF doesn't do that often for the women's team. But yeah, it's good because I know that a lot of state affairs don't even have their own proper websites or social media handles. So they will now be forced to start one and have a team for that to update it regularly. So that's a good thing. A lot of other good things as well. But these were the things that kind of stood out for me, and I felt were good overall.
And Mithila, as a player, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, I think the rule book is actually extremely detailed. I mean, I'm really glad that they came out with it because there's clear transparency on exactly what they want. Now, the only thing to look forward to is whether the clubs are actually upholding it. So, because initially we had trouble with the fact that there were no guidelines in the first place. So, each club did their own thing and each district and each state did their own thing. And now it's sort of like each state does have the flexibility to do their thing as long as they meet the criteria that's mentioned. So I think that that sort of benchmark is necessary if they want to build on it and build a professional structure for the women. So I think yeah, great first step. Super detailed document. So yeah, I enjoyed reading it actually. I was actually going through all the points, seeing if
And also, there was one more section in that rule book with additional points. So it
my
had
club
points
actually.
like, sorry?
I think your internet dropped, Mithila, because you just froze for a second.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, do you
Okay,
want to
when
just
did it
continue? Just continue whatever you were saying, and then Jennifer, you can go ahead.
Yep, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I was saying, I was going through some of those points, and I was actually trying to see if my club, fits into most of those details, because I didn't want to, be in a place where even the club doesn't know what's happening. And so, of course, all of the club members have obviously been communicated with this, and it's a good first step. I'm excited for this year's league, though. I really hope it happens well. I think the deadline for leagues to submit their nominations is the 15th of Jan. So I think from now till November, December, Jan are going to be super exciting months of football for us across states.
Yes.
And there was another interesting section in that rule book with additional points. So every state okay, will be getting additional points for certain extra things that they have. Like if they have any age group teams, so each age group team they'll be getting an additional 10 points. And if they live stream the games, they'll be getting points for that. So say
Yeah.
50% of the league is live streamed, they'll be getting additional, I think, 10 points. And if 70% of the league is streamed, they'll be getting around 15 points. I guess I'm saying it right. And then for the whole league, if the whole league is streamed live, then they'll be getting 20 points. And there were a few other things as well. If the state FAs do, they'll be getting additional points that more like at Hogwarts at the end of the state league, like Dumbledore, AFF will be giving points to all the states that FAs. That was the thing that was interesting to see. So if there are a lot of nominations from the state FAs and the numbers are too many, and if the federation wants only a certain number of teams to participate in the finals and the rest to participate in another set of qualifiers or so, then they'll use these additional points to kind of rank them and use them, I believe. So that's also a good additional thing that they've added.
I mean, I'd have to thank you both for just breaking it down and just highlighting the important points, because I think people who haven't gone through the rule book, this is super important and informational. So all of you guys who are watching out here, some really good points to take in, and these are some positives that we found. Moving on, senior nationals has not happened for a long time, and hopefully there is some good news about it. So again, like, do you see it happening, and do you see positives coming out of it very soon? Probably, in the next couple of months.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was actually really skeptical. About a couple of months back, they were saying that they're thinking of having senior nationals this year. But again, at that point, I feel like everyone is waiting for the third wave and just being really cautious with everything. So it wasn't sure even then. But I think at this point, the place that we're at, I think it's in a much better place. A lot of states have started preparing, and I think the 10th of November is what is supposed to be the date tentatively. I don't think this official comments from the
Yeah.
IFF. I don't think so.
Is
From
it
10th to 30th.
Yeah, so okay, so from the 10th is what they're saying, but I don't think they've not announced the venue yet. Officially, the venue has not been confirmed yet, so I think that's something that's still in the dark. But yeah, I mean, playing senior nationals after an entire pandemic is a huge step up. I think the last one was in 2019 in Arunachal, right? So after that, I think we're looking at the first senior nationals happening. So yeah, great. It's always a plus point when new competitions happen and like old competitions happen over and over again. So it's always something for players to look forward to, so that their calendar isn't just empty. But yeah, like really good, really happy that senior nationals coming back.
Of course, and as we
Yeah,
get more, yes, go ahead, Jenny.
yeah, and also a lot of states are conducting trials for that. and some states conducting inter-district tournaments to select the players for their state teams. And Tamil Nadu is conducting the trials tomorrow and the day after. So it's good, but I would have actually preferred an inter-district competition of sorts that normally happens to select the players for the senior nationals. But anyways, we have just come, the players are just returning from a pandemic, and even the state affairs are preparing everything after a long time. So something is better than nothing. So happy about whatever is going on. So it's and the senior nationals is something a lot of us look forward to very eagerly. Especially for me, ever since Tamil Nadu won the senior nationals in 2018, we've been wanting the team to bring the trophy back home again. So that is also something we're looking forward to. But we don't have an update on whether the national team players will be a part of the senior nationals. So that confirmation still not come. Whether they will be a part or whether they will not be a part. If they will be allowed, it will be like double bonus for Tamil Nadu, especially because we'll have Indumati, Sandhya, and Sumitra playing for Tamil Nadu for the first time. So earlier, Sumitra and Sandhya were not part of the Tamil Nadu team in the previous senior national. So if it happens and if they are allowed, that this is the first time that all three will be playing, and that is something all Tamil Nadu football fans will look forward to.
And as you said, there's a lot of information that still has to come. And yeah, we hope that, we've been talking about IWL coverage, like we are looking forward to that. Let's hope that we also get some for this and we are constantly updated on, what's happening, because that's important as well. And yeah, you did mention about, a lot of the district leagues, some are organizing them, some states are. But good news is that a lot of new leagues have either, commenced or we are just starting off or we're in the middle of a couple of leagues. And yeah, so let's take a look at, we have the KSFA A Division League, which just concluded, and Modern Girls FC won it. So yeah, shout out and congratulations to them. Great to see leagues happening after the pandemic, as we said. And even the Goa League, the Vedanta League is happening there, right? You all want to give any updates on that?
Yeah, I think state leagues have started in quite a few places. The KSFA A division happened in Bangalore. So I was there for a couple of matches for that. Right now, the league is happening. There's also, but it's different systems for different leagues. I think in different states. I mean, some of them are having inter-district tournaments. Some of them are having leagues directly. But yeah, I think we'll get to it in the later part of the discussion. But I think overall, it's a good thing that the state FAs have started conducting competition of some sort.
Yeah, absolutely. And to mention another one, we had the Gujarat State Football Association also have a league and just close that one. So as we just said, great to see this happening. So yeah, of course, we've just gone through a lot of the positives that we are seeing. We're seeing leagues, we're seeing matches for our national team, but of course, there's a lot of the negatives that we have to talk about, and we hope that they change. So to begin with, let's just talk about the national friendlies that we just played. What were you guys not happy about?
I think
no life streaming at all.
No, I'm going to let Jenny take the first part of it completely because of how much of frustration there's been there. What?
Yeah, there was no live streaming at all. No, not for even a single match. Not even a Facebook streaming. Even for at least for the previous friendly, I think the one we had around March, April. I remember there were at least Facebook live. At least for one or two games. At least that was it. Now for these four friendlies, we did not even have that. Okay, let's leave that. Let's keep that secondary. But there's not live updates even, especially for the first game. Absolutely no update. There was not even an update that the match had kicked off. No starting lineup. Nothing. It was after the match ended that they put up a post saying that we won the match 4-1 against UAE. And it was so frustrating because we're all invested in women's football, and we want to know how they're doing. We want to watch them play live, but we don't even get the bare minimum. Not when we don't even get the update. It's very frustrating. So there was complete outrage on all social media, and for the next game, there was there were updates, but still, if you see, the starting lineup was announced or was put up on social media only after kickoff. The match started at 8:30 or 9:30. You will see the update only after that. Not even they did not even care to put it a few minutes before the match kicked off. So that's the amount of respect they showed towards the women's team, and we can clearly see the way both the men's team and the women's team are discriminated. And a couple of these games also coincided with the men's games. So both matches happened on the same day, and you can see the way the posts all went up for both. Especially if you see for the first UAE game, there was a quiz going on the men's game. Around men's staff. I think there were around 9 tweets that day, all on the men's, and on the women, there was just one tweet. I think earlier on in the day that there is a match going to happen, and that was it. And the next tweet that we saw was after the full time whistle about the result. That was all that we got. And for the first match, there was no highlights even that was posted. Luckily, for the second, third, and fourth match, we at least got to see some highlights. And yeah, none of the matches they were live streaming. So that is that is something that should change at least for the next couple of friendlies. Hopefully, there is something, somewhere something we get to see because since there were highlights, it was sure that the match was getting recorded somewhere, right? So they could at least show it to us as well live. So that is one thing. And coming to the performance of the team, although we didn't get to watch the match, the second match against Tunisia was something we expected the team to win. But unfortunately, from the updates, what we understood was that the team was continuously knocking at their door, but the finishing just didn't happen. So we were not that great with the finishing on that day. But we came back from that in the next two games. But still, that one game was also something that we could have won. So that is also one negative from the performance as such from the friendly.
If the social media admin was busy, posting about the men's game, I would love to volunteer to handle the social media for the women's game, in case anyone's listening out there. But yeah, of course, you've pretty much covered, how we all felt, and social media, like the group of people who actually watched the women's football wanted to go over really, really annoyed at, the step taken by them to not show it live. Mithila, on to you.
Yeah, I think Jenny's covered most of it. I think the most of the frustration was around the time where the matches started. Before the first friendly started, it was not mentioned that it was closed doors. It was only after all the noise and after everything that they came out of the statement saying that, hey, it's a closed doors tournament. That's why we couldn't stream it. And honestly, it seems like an excuse at this point because it is definitely their duty that, let's say, I mean, even if we're looking at the AFC Cup next year, and at this point, the goal should be to build a fan base and to build the kind of, and also there is an existing fan base. Also help them grow with the sport, help them understand the players who they're supporting, because I think fans play a huge role in the way football is shaped in any sport actually is shaped in the country. So I think that's something that's definitely a takeaway. It actually felt really unprofessional at one point because we're talking about girls who are representing your country, and the least you can do is maybe give them a creative with like their starting lineup instead of just putting it out on Twitter like a text. I mean, that I think that was just it just felt really unprofessional and didn't give the same kind of status that the men's team had, because in every men's match, if you can see, there's a proper creative. It's mentioned with the starting lineup, the substitutes, the coaches, everything's mentioned. And I think that's the least that they can do if they're not going to telecast the games also, right? So I think that was a huge miss, and it was honestly just sad to see because you've been playing as, so for me it's also like seeing it from a footballer's perspective and seeing it from a fan's perspective. It's such a letdown.
Yeah, and if you remember, for the first match, there was no starting lineup posted at all. For the
Exactly,
second, starting lineup put up, but with 8 players. Like, we were like, what? We're going to play with 8 players or what? And for the third match, if you see, again, there was a starting lineup, but with spelling mistake of the players.
Yeah.
So that is something excusable. But you see the laid back attitude they have towards the women's game overall. The way they do these things. And even the first game, the excuse that they came up with, I mean, it was very obvious that it was a big fat lie, because the excuse that they gave was that the that federation did not let them share any news outside, and nothing was allowed outside to go outside. But still, there was one journalist who did get information. How was that possible? If none of the information should have gone out. So that was a big fat lie. And if they can share information with one journalist, they could share it with all the fans as well. So they're just taking everyone for granted, and that's what we've been seeing all throughout.
Yeah, for sure.
And to add just to the negatives, we've obviously discussed around the national team, and also previously we mentioned that there's not a lot of clarity on a lot of things happening in women's football in the country, which is something we have to consider right now. All right, but the funny thing about the Kerala FA, so let's take a quick look at that incident. So there was an article, the whole article published that the club, the Kerala Women's League is coming back after 7 years, okay, which is firstly a long gap of 7 years. Why wasn't there a need for 7 years? It's a whole different question altogether. And then, as you can see on screen, there are a couple of clubs which were confirmed to play. And randomly, we have the Kerala Football Association's page saying when. We did not know, with a couple of clueless looking emojis, like what is happening in that state.
Yeah, this is the chaos that we were talking about. I mean, just when we thought that there was a proper structure that was established, there's random miscommunication. And I think that, of course, jokes apart, because I think this is a really funny tweet. I think all the jokes apart, this sort of happens when you don't have a streamlined structure and uniformity to your league system or state system or anything for that. I think that the minute you start to centralize a bunch of things, start to have certain roles being managed by the right kind of people. So let's say operations, business, all of that is one side. But when it comes to the communication, like social media, articles, anything that relates to having that information be put out, I think when there's a mismatch over there, it just goes for a toss, and we clearly saw it now. And that I think the Voice of Indian Football, like one of those pages that they already commented saying we found this information in this particular article. Either there was a miscommunication between the association and the people who wrote the article, or the people who wrote the article just wrote it in speculation. But all of this having that hype created and then randomly nothing happening about it. Yeah, this is the article, right?
The article, yeah.
So yeah, I think for something to be published on an article like this, and then for someone to say that I had no idea that this is going to happen, it's just upsetting in terms of how they planned this out.
Yeah. Again, a big thing to add. On the last episode, we were just like praising that. We were like, Kerala FA has announced all of this, and there's a league going to happen. Was part of our positives, and now it's just come to a part of negatives. So talking about negatives, do you guys have anything else to add to it?
So since we're still talking about the national team and stuff and communication, I just wanted to remind that the AFF has still not officially announced the new assistant coach. So we got to know about the new assistant coach through journalists, through other quotes that came out later with the new assistant coach, with her being with the players and all. So that is how we came to know. There was no proper announcement as such. when Memol quit and when Danabi was announced, there were announcements for that, but for the assistant coach there was nothing. In fact, we would have all celebrated if there was an official announcement that the previous assistant coach has left, but that did not happen, and the new one was also not announced. So this is something, again, for some it might sound trivial, but these are some basics that they should follow as a professional federation, and we keep seeing that they miss out on a lot of these things. Actually, these are some areas that they need to improve.
Yeah, for sure. I think, adding to what Jenny said, apart from the national team news, this whole inconsistency in how each state is doing its selection process is still a little worrying in terms of, how the development is. Of course, different states are at different levels of development within their own state itself, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a similar structure. So let's say we're taking the senior nationals for now, right? Right now, we know for a fact that it's going to happen on the 10th, but the location's not been announced officially. Maybe it's come to the state associations, but that communication has not come out to the public, and it's not been made official in terms of their communication to the masses. Either they don't care if the fans know about it or not, and they're probably just worried if the respective state associations know, and they're just going to be satisfied with that. But I strongly don't feel that that's the way to go about it in terms of creating a hype around a tournament in the first place. If you just want your state associations to know, if you just want it to be a one-off tournament during the year with no sort of hype being created around it, then how would you create a fan base where people can actually start supporting a team, or start rooting for someone in the whole process, right? So yeah, I think that's something that is still a big question mark, because if you see the current scenario, states like Goa, some of them are conducting their Vedanta League. There are some states like Gujarat, and right now, I think even someone else had a district championship like Palghar, right? So
Yeah.
there are some of them are having district championships, and some of them, like let's say even in Karnataka, some of them are just having a direct selection with a large group of players and then slowly filtering it down to the team. So for having these many different types of selections with no clear information on how it's to be done, I mean, of course, if you leave it to the states, then fine. But at least try to see if they're meeting the criteria for that particular thing, or if it is the right way to go about it, right? Like right now, I think Tamil Nadu is having its elections in 2 days, today, tomorrow, and day after, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so
And
if you
today is the 15th. We are filming this on the 15th of
yeah,
today.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think so I think different states are doing it in different ways. So it still it doesn't promote for a good uniform system of playing in the senior nationals. That would be a good step up. Right now, we do have good guidelines for the IWL, so I feel like eventually, even if the state championships are a little more centralized, I think that would be good too.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course, that is something to add to it, unclarity. But we just saw a small video being released, and hype being created about the World Cup, the Under 17 World Cup going to be happening. But again, if you go to see, we don't really know what's happening in terms of players, in terms of the team. What literally, there's nothing about that. There was like a treasure hunt in that video. We fans are just
Yeah.
like searching just like that for bits of information everywhere. But yeah, it's again sad to see that they are creating the hype without actually saying if they have a plan in mind for the players and the teams and how we're going to go about it.
Yeah, I think releasing a mascot is of course important, but you can't do it at the cost of not having communicated literally anything else about the tournament. There's been, especially after the one that we initially was supposed to happen got rescheduled, and because of the age, they had to reschedule all the players, most of the players as well. It was a bummer for a lot of them who could have played a World Cup, but then they just missed out on it, right? But I mean, not having anything going around it, but just having one hype video on FIFA Women's World Cup page go up and having Indian football share it, I mean, yeah, it's a good step, but I don't know if they see that's just the first one, and banking on just the publicity for just creating the hype about the league, but not having any real information and profile being created about the players. And we're just a year, exactly about a year away from the tournament. So I think it's cutting it too close. It does definitely require a lot more than they're giving in terms of letting the fans get to know the players. We absolutely have no idea who the players are even. So how would they manage to create a fan base where nobody knows anyone?
Because I
And
think even they don't know who is going to play finally. Because a lot of players were shortlisted, but there's not been any camp, right? So only if a
Yeah,
camp happens, there will be training. There will be further
yeah,
shortlisting there, and taking the rest of the players to the next camp. And maybe if they want, they can bring in some new players as well and see if they fit in the squad or um, um, they are good enough to be in the team. So all those things will happen only if a camp starts somewhere. And this, I think, is the right time. We have around a year's time now, and this is when, and now that things are slowly getting back to normal, and the men's games are going on, the senior women's games are going on. So if we are participating in a World Cup, we have to start the preparation early on. This is actually, I mean, even 1 year's gap is actually too late. But even
yeah,
now, there is no preparation going on. Nothing has started. Nothing has begun. There is no information on any camp or anything. I am assuming that they're waiting for the Asian Cup to be done in Jan, and after that, probably I think they are planning to start. But it will be too late by then. It's already late, and just delaying it. And we know for a fact that women's football is just a tick box exercise for AFF, and even when such big tournaments are happening. Um, it's just sad that not enough effort goes into actually uh, develop the players and build it up. From at least for the sake of the tournament, they should be preparing the players from now on. But that's not happening, and that's so sad. Um, in fact, the under 17 team coach is also with the senior women's team now. I'm, it's good that they are benefiting out of that, but there should be, some mechanism in place where both can happen at the same time. It's not like they don't have, or they might not have received enough funds, or so they would have already received enough funds to conduct the tournament and for
yeah.
everything else. They put it in the right place. But that is what is not happening, and that's also because a lot of them are not held accountable. We don't know for a fact who is behind all this and who is running. We know a few, but not everyone, right? So that's also being taken advantage of, and um, hopefully they start something soon, and hopefully something happens from the players' side, for the players
yeah,
with respect to the World Cup, and not just PR and hashtag.
yeah. And to add to that, scouting. Like, there's a whole pool of talent for our young girls. Like, I have seen, you know, players who are so good, who are just developing, and there's a whole fresh batch of players who can actually be eligible this time. So, how are they going to scout like the talent pool? They have a talent pool. How are they going to go about scouting? I mean, that is also something that concerns me, because they're just going to be leaving out a lot of people who can actually go there and perform at a World Cup, because they have the quality in them. And that's just going to be sad for a lot of girls who won't get that opportunity, just because the way that everything is being going to be rushed in just 1 year.
Yeah.
I think that part is already taken care of. They already have a set of players that they have considered. A lot of players have a lot of state affairs that actually received the list of players who have been selected from those states. But the thing is, they just know that they will be called for the camp. We just don't know when it will happen, and we don't know totally how many players are there in that complete list and what will happen next.
Yeah. And again, there were no tournaments, right? So then, how have they been selected? Have new players been added to it? Genuinely, we don't actually know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
everything, there's no transparency in this extent.
Correct, correct. So, of course, I think we can just go on talking, going, adding more to this list. But I think it's time for us to wrap up, and we'll get back on the updates and things that happen in the next few episodes. Thank you so much, Mithila and Janisha, for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Priyanka. Thanks for
Thank
having
you
us.
so much for having us.
Thank you. And of course, yes, again, just stay tuned to our social media. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And of course, share this video, share it with people who are interested in football, people, the girls especially who are playing in your locality. Just share it to get the word around. And let's start cheering for our Indian women's football.
All right.
Yeah,
See you guys.
Perfect. Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you. Bye bye. Take care.